Give me.
So welcome everyone. Thank you. We got our technical stuff together and I swooped in, skidded in sideways. Today we have an attorney, Dinesh. I don't know how to say Chawla.
It's Chawla.
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 Thank
Yep.
you. All right, and Leslie graciously invited him to join us today, and I don't know Dinesh, so I'm going to ask him to introduce himself, and then he will get started with this presentation today.
Yeah.
So Dinesh, the floor is yours.
All right, if this thing would pop, here we go. Okay. My name is Dinesh Chawla. I am an estate planning, elder law, and probate attorney with Chawla Legal Group. The group right now is downsized a little bit. It consists of me and my client service coordinator, Debbie. We got rid of our office in May of 2022 because I was always on the road visiting clients, whether it was in their nursing home. A lot of people want to feel comfortable with the subject matter that we're discussing. A lot of people don't like talking about death, disability, what's going to happen to my stuff. If I'm going from, my independent living into a nursing home, am I going to lose everything I've worked for so I can qualify for Medicaid to pay for the nursing home? And we have a lot of difficult conversations, a lot of great conversations, but I need to be empathetic to the fact and sympathetic to the fact that these people aren't going to feel comfortable in an office all the time. And quite often they can't even physically make it to the office. So as overhead, I consciously made the decision that since we were already set up to be 100% virtual because of the whole, COVID fiasco and that situation during our shutdowns, we had an answering service ready to go. We were equipped with all of the mobile communications and just everything we absolutely needed. The only thing we were missing was Debbie and myself are both notaries, but we don't have the ability to do remote online notarization as of yet. My application has been in with the Office of the Great Seal for about 6 to 8 months now. So I'm still waiting for that, but the way I see it is it's a necessary service that I'm more than happy to support in any way that I can. And it just links so well with a lot of the things that we are trying to do. So with that kind of being the precursor, I'll actually introduce myself now. So this is my background. I was born and raised in Michigan, in the Troy area. My dad was an engineer, or is an engineer, I should say. My mom passed away the day after Christmas in 2019. Talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But she was an English teacher before I was born. She stopped working when she had me. So I always joke that because my dad's an engineer and my mom's an English teacher, I have a very well-defined process to correct your grammar. I got my BA from Michigan in communications. My JD I got from UDM, University of Detroit Mercy Law School downtown. This is my family. I always show a picture of my family because this is why I got into the business. If you look, my cursor is on the guy right in the middle, and that's my dad. He is my hero. And in about 2016 timeframe, he came to me and said, "Hey, when should we get our estate plan looked at?" And I said, "Well, when was the last time you looked at it?" Because the state bar, and I wasn't even practicing in estate planning at the time, but the state bar actually recommends that you get it checked every 3 to 6 years. Policy behind that is because 3 to 6 years is when our legislature usually changes between the major elections and the midterm elections. And so that's when policies cycle through and sometimes change. So every 3 to 6 years, we want to check to make sure that the laws are still the same. However, our lives change a lot on a day-to-day basis, let alone an annual basis. So I was kind of upset because my background is in sales and marketing, and it's always been in consultative sales. Like, I don't think I've ever sold anybody anything. I've consulted them on figuring out what their wants and needs are and trying to fill voids and gaps with solutions. So we're always providing something of value. And you have to check in on that and make sure that the value's still there. And it got me mad that a supposed colleague of mine treated my hero like a transaction and not a relationship, especially when the relationship and the tool that you're providing with that person, be it a will, a trust, a power of attorney, that impacts them and their whole family. It's a lot of responsibility to have. So the fact that she wasn't taking that responsibility in my mind seriously, I had issues with that. So I started looking all around for a good attorney for my dad and my mom. Sorry, my mom is the one with the oxygen, sitting all the way almost to the far right, but she's the white lady in the middle. And this was the last family photo before she passed away. This was Thanksgiving in 2019. So why do I post this picture? Because quite literally everybody in this picture is impacted by what I do, whether it's through a power of attorney, whether it's through guardianship of a minor in a will, whether it's the distributions of a will or designing a trust. Everybody in this picture is going to be impacted by what I do eventually. I can't think of any other form of law other than taxes. And that might not even impact anybody, because if you die as a minor, you might not ever have been taxed. So, but you're certainly going to have to go through other processes post-death. So what I do really does impact everybody. So we want to do those check-ins quite often. In fact, we have a policy to check in on all of our clients every single year, even if it's an email with a checklist saying, hey, if any of this has changed, we got to talk about updating your plan. So that's a little bit about me. Now I'm going to, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you about. So as I was looking for an attorney for my dad, I came across this group called Lawyers with Purpose, and it's all estate planning and elder law and probate attorneys. They're an amazing group. Since then, I've really gotten involved with the community because the attorney we found is a local attorney out of Michigan, West Bloomfield, named Mike Rutkowski. I don't consider any attorney my competition, so I'm not afraid to mention their names and speak about them in a positive light. Mike allowed me to walk through the whole process with my parents and really taught me a lot and took me under his wing. We became really good friends. I loved what he was doing and I wanted to do it myself. So that's really how I kind of got into this fun world of estate planning and elder law and probate. So when we look at estate planning, I'm always looking at core elements. And notice none of these elements say, how much are you worth? Because quite honestly, I don't care how much you're worth. If you're worth $1 and you want to make sure that that dollar, when you become incapacitated, is being maximized in its value for your purposes, or you have $1 and you want to make sure that it gets split up the right way and each penny gets given to the people you want it to get given to, that's where we come in. So it's really not about how much you have or what you have. It's about how you want to control what you have, how you want to control certain processes. So we always ask 3 questions with every decision that we're doing. Who's in control? Who gets to benefit? And when are we making this decision? Are we making this decision while you're alive and well? Is this a decision to be made when you're no longer able to make your decisions and you're incapacitated? You need somebody to sign and speak for you. Or is this a decision we're making from the grave? That's one of the really cool things that I get to do. And I love telling people this, especially married women who are mothers. Because I would joke with my mom about this. I always get to say, I help people control things from the grave. And without a doubt, every time I'm doing a workshop and I see women smirking, they're quite often married mothers, just like my mom was, and she would have laughed her butt off at that joke. So I always make it, not to be sexist, but I think it's hilarious, the reactions that I get from it. But those are the 3 core elements of estate planning from my point of view. Why do we do estate planning? Because there's a lot of crap we have to go through when we become incapacitated or when we die. Why? Because when we're alive, we get to speak for ourselves. We get to tell people what we want to do. If we have $1 in our pocket, we get to figure out how we want to spend it, keep it, or give it away. We can figure out if we want to invest it. We can then manage those investments. So we've got a lot of things that we can decide while we're living. And when we're unable to decide those things, we want to have it simple for somebody to, I guess, pass the torch to, if you will. So these are the reasons we do it. We're looking at keeping things simple, having your instructions in the game. We're looking at our predators, government, taxes, long-term care costs, your family, lawsuits, health issues, economy issues, retirement issues, veterans affairs issues. There's just a slew of things that we have to look at, and not just including yourself, but we have to look at your beneficiaries as well. So the reason I say that is if I know that somebody is living in their own home, working their own job, but they're collecting, or I'm sorry, not working their own job because they're collecting disability. So they're collecting disability, but they live in their own home. I need to know that if I'm writing something like a ladybird deed or a will with an outright distribution of sales from a house going to that person, because that going outright to him could knock him or her off their disability. So there's a lot of responsibility there, not just for the client, but for their beneficiaries as well, so we don't inadvertently mess any of their situation up. Legal documents and government rules. The government rules, pretty much automatic. So if we're looking at probate, if we're looking at guardianship, if we're looking at conservatorship, all of those things, if you have no legal documents in place, that's the process and procedure that we have to go through in order to get somebody to act as your agent while you're living or your personal representative when you've passed away. So this is the difference between legal documents and government rules. Government rules give very specific instructions on how the court should do things, pass things, give guardianship to a minor child. And those are our probate laws. And they're usually going to look, if you pass away, they're always going to look at your spouse. And if you don't have one, they look down, up, and side to side, meaning they look down to see if you have other kids who can act as guardian or conservator or personal representative. If you don't have any of age or able to do that, then they're going to look up. Do you have parents or grandparents that can help out? If not, they're going to look side to side to your siblings. Now, here's the thing. What if you don't like your family? What if your friends are closer to you than your family and you don't want your sister taking control of your kids? Well, now the government doesn't know that. They're going by their rules. With a will, you get to say who you want your personal representative to be. You get to say who you want the guardian of your minor children to be. You get to say what you consider all of your assets and who they're going to go to. With a power of attorney, you can say who you want to make your medical decisions for you for a healthcare power of attorney. You can choose an agent to do your legal and financial decisions and signings for you with a general power of attorney. So those are things we're always looking at. And 9 times out of 10, if you have documents in place, things do go a lot more smooth in those processes that are required, as opposed to when you don't. The government rules versus your rules. So who has authority during your lifetime? You do. Well, while you're alive and well, you have absolute authority over everything that you do. Let's take taxes out of it and government controls that they have out of it. On a day-to-day basis, you have the ability to wake up, manage your finances, manage your healthcare, and if you want to make end-of-the-life decisions, prepaid funeral, sign up for a nursing home now, get long-term care insurance, you can do that. If you're unable to act, and we're going through a couple cases right now, if you're unable to act and we have to go through the court for a guardianship and conservatorship, then we have to get judges' permission to pretty much do anything. Like right now, I have to apply for permission to sell a house. Even though it's a really good offer, we have to get the judge's permission before we can accept it. I've got another case where we want to move a lot of funds for a minor from his bank account into a brokerage account so we can let it grow because he's young. We have to get court permission to do that. And then every time we want to buy or sell within that brokerage account, we can't just do it based off the current market. We have to think 3 days in advance because we have to send in an application for the judge to sign off on. So these are all complications that get taken away if you don't have the right plan in place. So what we're really trying to do with a general power of attorney is avoid a conservatorship hearing, because those are what manages people's finances. If we're looking at taking care of the person themselves, then we're looking at a guardianship, and that ties more towards a healthcare power of attorney to avoid a guardianship. We already talked about a lot of this stuff, so I'm going to kind of, I guess this is actually really important. So what we want to understand, especially with the rules, is that ownership is going to trump legal documents every single time. So if I have a will saying, I want my house to go to my son, John, but I have a ladybird deed saying that the house when I die goes to Leslie Hawker, well, the deed trumps the will. So we always want to look at who owns the stuff, how it's owned, and do we have the right beneficiary designations on it? Or do we have the right future interests on it? So those are actually really important things. Documents versus planning, there is no one size fits all. Personalized planning is best, and that is where we're going to talk a little bit about the tools for planning and just simple tools for planning, and I'll go through this really quick, and then I kind of want to show you why what we do is very important, and you'll see it grow more important for mobile notaries, online notaries, as this type of stuff takes off, and I think it will within the legal industry. And in fact, I'm betting on it, and that's the digitization of law. So healthcare power of attorney, essentially what you're doing is you're giving an agent the authority to act for you if you can no longer act for yourself. And this is where you're going to make your end of life decisions, your organ donation, you can put that in there, and you get to say who controls and what courses of treatment you do want and what courses of treatment you do not want, including those courses when you're in a vegetated state. The general power of attorney, like I said, handles your legal and financial decisions. Those are generally effective immediately. The reason being is that if people can still speak and make their medical decisions for themselves, and they've still got it all up here, we want them to continue to do that. In the case of a legal or financial situation, if somebody's physically incapacitated, we want the agent to be able to act for them right away without having doctors sign off saying that the person's incapacitated. So we always leave that full authority open right away. People often ask me, well, what if I pick somebody and they screw me over? Well, that's going to happen whether you're have mental capacity or not. A bad person's a bad person. You really have to pick people that you trust. But we do give full authority. You can give future authority, but again, the more you hold off on things within your plan, the more hoops you have to jump through when you really, really need it. So the will really puts your rules, like I said before, into the probate process. So rather than the judge picking who's your personal representative to manage the estate, who's the guardian for your minors, who the beneficiaries are, you get to put those specifically in your will and go from there. And the court will honor those as long as they're properly drafted and hit all the compliance rules. Okay, so this is where I'm going to jump into kind of a demo, but so through Lawyers with Purpose, one of the things that they have come up with is this tool called Guider. It's spelled Guidr. And it's a great tool. It actually has an estate plan advisor on it. So you can go through some questions and it'll basically tell you what tool is right for you. What it'll do, and I'll walk you through everything, but you get to go through a do-it-yourself wizard for either power of attorney, your healthcare or your general, or a will. And the other great thing about this is anybody can fill these wizards out for anybody. This isn't like LegalZoom or Rocket Lawyer or anything like that. I license this tool through Guider, and I'm the local attorney that is backing everything that comes out of Guider. So when you're in my portal in Guider, and we'll post a link later, but when you're in Chawla Legal Group's portal in Guider, it'll walk you through everything you need to do. And then people will sign an engagement agreement online. They'll just click, I agree to this, and it'll kick all the answers over to me. And it'll also put a hold on their credit card. I review all the answers and I say, hey, based off of my review, you chose a will plan, and here's what will happen when you become incapacitated, and here's what will happen when you pass away. Is this what you were looking for? And when they send confirmation, I click OK, everything runs through, they get their documents. Here's the kicker. They have the option to do a free self-sign, or they have the option to pay a little extra and have me and Debbie come over or set up an online signing for all of their estate planning documents that they have. And we can see, or we will know, who sends us these clients because we communicate in the background. So I'm showing on the screen right now that there's a discount code here saying MNN Leslie Hawker. So that stands for Michigan Notary Network Leslie Hawker. So if a client comes in with that code, I know to credit that to Leslie and call her for the signing meeting so she can take advantage of our being part of our group as the signing and review package. And that way, us bringing her in, she's not just acting as a notary, she's acting as a lot of other things for us. So we're able to give everybody legally and above board part of our signing fee. It's not just a $10 fee. It's also a service fee. So there are a lot of things that we get to do with this that are a whole lot of fun. The other thing that we can do is when I do see, or when the system sees that somebody entered MNN Leslie Hawker in the tool, then it discounts their documents or in their service by whatever discount code percentage we put in there. I believe for Leslie and your whole group, it's going to be 15%. So I'm going to jump into that side of things for a second. And I don't know why I stopped sharing my screen. Are there any questions for right now?
I actually do have a couple of questions.
Okay, let's address those right now then.
Okay, so when you are doing, let's say I have a will. I have a will. I assign my assets, say, spell out who I want to get my stuff. But if I die and my stuff isn't in a trust, all my stuff has to go through probate, correct? Even if I have a will, it still has to go through probate. Is that correct?
Yes and no. So we're going to separate things. There's columns. Okay. So essentially what they're going to do is they're going to look at I, as an attorney, when I take a probate case, I have to get an inventory of all assets. And then what we want to understand are, with some assets, are there beneficiary designations on them? And are those beneficiary designations still good? So if there's an IRA, those usually have beneficiary designations on them, and those go straight to the people that it's contracted to go out to. So that's not considered a probate asset.
Okay.
Anything owned in your name or titled in your name when you pass away is considered a probate asset. And people freak out about, oh my God, probate's such an expensive process. It's not. That's a load of crap. Lawyers are the worst marketers. If they were better marketers, there'd be no such thing called an irrevocable trust. Okay, it's the scariest sounding thing in the world, but it's a load of crap. I'm telling you right now, breaking and dispelling myths right now. If I were to take $5 million worth of assets through probate, how much do you think an inventory fee for $5 million would be?
$50,000.
$50,000. Try $2,450.
Whoa,
I've
okay.
not done a probate. All I do is uncontested administrative probates where there's no fighting, the family's just in mourning, and they don't want to go through the rigmarole of a court administrative process. So they hire me to do everything. We charge a flat fee, all fees included, your inventory fee, your court costs, our costs, everything. We charge every single family a flat fee of $6,250. We have never gone over that. And when I first started, we used to go a little under that, but it wasn't worth the time. So we upped it a little bit. But that being said, it's not as an expensive process as people think it is. You hear the horror stories and you hear, oh my God, yeah, my family fought for 6 years and it cost us this much in legal fees. Legal fees, not court costs. The longer you stay in court and keep things going, it's not the court that's making money off of it. The court's losing money because they still have to administer stuff and you've already paid their administration fee. It's the lawyers that are making money. So no, sometimes a will plan is a perfectly acceptable plan to get people through what they need. But again, so like I said, it's not a one size fits all thing. If you have things and you don't need a trust, I make more money if I write people a trust. But if you don't need a trust, I'm not going to put you in a trust plan. It's irresponsible on my part, and it means I didn't do the right thing for you, and you hired a bad attorney. So there isn't a one size fits all thing. That's, again, what I'm about to show you with Guider. That's why I think it's such a great tool, because it's a hybrid. It's not like LegalZoom or Rocket Lawyer where you're going through their wizard and then you print everything out and you do what you have to do. We're reviewing everything on the back end. Like everything that comes through there gets kicked to me and I get all the information. So now I can say, hey, based off this, let's dive a little bit deeper into here on your trust aspect of it, because we don't allow people to do trusts online for a reason. They're too complex, they're too detailed, and there's a lot more control to it. And there's a lot more legal counseling and education that needs to go on there. So there's a very distinct purpose as to why Guider and the attorney owner members of their council, which I happen to be a part of. So I've got direct access to the designers and the founders of the company on a monthly basis, actually a bi-weekly basis in my case. So I believe in the tool. I'm putting a lot into it for a reason. And one of the reasons is because of what you all do. It's part of where I see the world going. I can do everything from where I'm standing right now in New Baltimore, Michigan. I can do a plan with somebody in Grand Rapids or the UP from their home. We can both be in our pajamas the whole time. The only thing I can't do from my end-to-end process with them is notarize anything. It's a very exclusive group who can. Most of you all fall into that. So the way I see the world working is everybody who's on a digital platform is going to be able to move forward. Everybody who's fighting it and not on a digital platform is going to get left in the dust. So I wanted to be on that forward end of everything. So with this Guider tool, attorneys can only license it if they're part of Lawyers with Purpose. There are 12 of us in the state of Michigan who are attorneys with, I think that the membership grew to like 16 now, but there are only 3 of us who licensed Guider because it just started, it's been in development for about 4 years now, but it just came out for production a couple years ago. So it's new. There's still some bugs that are being worked out in terms of glitches with people being able to get their documents, but those get worked out within 24 hours every single time. I've never had an issue. So are there any more questions on the last part of it, or otherwise I can just really quickly jump into to show you the system and show you exactly where you all would pop in? Can I do that?
There are no more questions in the chat, but I do have a question. How do you know when you need a trust? But you can answer that as you go through.
Yeah.
And I just want to make a comment, like being a Ron, I'm a Ron, Leslie's Ron. We totally understand about digital technology and the glitches and
Yeah.
the pain points that
Oh,
are
no,
with that
trust me,
comes with new technology.
I've worked with Leslie on a couple notarizations actually through Cyberize It. And again, they've had great customer service and they've fixed everything real time. So again, those, as long as the service is there to back everything, I can forgive a glitch. I've been through a lot of technology launches in my life. I can forgive a glitch. We, as humans, we make errors and that then goes into our system. But as long as we can handle it from a service side of it and keep a relationship going, then
Yep.
I'm okay with it. And there's very few and far between relationships that I can't keep going. You can ask my ex-wife, we're best friends. So it's very, very hard for me to lose relationships, and it bothers me. It affects me personally when I do. So let me really quick share my screen again, and I will get into an actual demo. But I don't want this anymore, so let's escape that. Okay, so when people go to guider.legal, this is what they're going to see. So as you can see, as you scroll down, it's going to explain the service a little bit. But getting started is very easy. So you come down here and you're going to see your initial package. That's the essential documents package. It has your will, power of attorney, and healthcare power of attorney. You can get each one a la carte, or down here, you can select all three. So that's why we call it your essentials documents package. If you don't feel like you need a will and you're just looking at a power of attorney, like say you're an 18-year-old kid going off to college, don't really need a will, but a power of attorney would be great for you. So we've got this power documents package. You can select each one individually, or you can select them both for a little bit of further discount. This is what I really want to show you. There's a little bit of an echo. Okay, so this is what I wanted to show you really quickly. My personal estate plan advisor. What this does is it essentially walks you through some initial questions that I would be asking in my office also. Really quick, I'm just going to address the fact that our asset protection analysis is listed right now, but it's a service we're working on. So it'll say this is coming soon. So that's why I'm not going to really address it today. But this, my personal estate plan advisor, if you were to instruct family, friends, clients, yourselves to go to this and hit select, it's going to ask you to find your nearest law firm. So I'm going to plug in my dad's zip code. And on the left-hand side of the screen, you're going to see the three users that pop up, or yeah. So mine is at the top because I'm closest. And then there is my friend Howard's firm in Lansing, and another firm who I just met the attorney owners in person once last year, so I don't know them as well, but they're out of Cass City, Michigan. So I've basically got the whole Metro Detroit area covered in terms of being able to drive if I need to. But this tool really works great in expanding my reach. So we're going to click me in my law firm. So what that's going to do is take you to our portal. Okay. So it's just guider.legal/Chawla legal. And that's our portal site. So again, I'm going to choose my personal estate plan advisor. I'll put my date of birth in. Whoops, I'm not married. I do have children. I have children under the age of 18. None of them are disabled. Am I a veteran? No. Health and care, what's my health status? Just for fun, let's say it's a concern. Do I have a prepaid funeral? No. Do I have long-term care insurance? No. How important is it for me to establish my own rules and instructions to minimize the use of lawyers and maximize your privacy after death? I'm just going to put somewhat important for all of these things, except for how important is it to ensure all assets given to minor beneficiaries are protected for them until they are old enough to manage them on their own. I have kids under the age of 18. That's very important for me. How important is it to you to ensure all assets given to future beneficiaries who are disabled have full use of them? We'll say that's somewhat important because I never know. Like, what if I die in a car crash and one of my kids is injured? Well, now he's got a disability and I haven't done anything to protect him. So we might want to think about something like that, but I'll say it's somewhat important. After your death, how important is it for you to ensure that your assets are protected for your children and other beneficiaries from lawsuits and divorce and all that other stuff? I'll say somewhat important there. Now, when I click submit, what this is going to say is, based on our experience, this is the right plan for you. As you can see, the essential documents package with revocable trust upgrade is what the artificial intelligence is saying is probably the best tool for you. And that says that you can design it now for $278, and that part is collected online. And the $14.99 for the trust piece of it would be paid during our attorney meeting. So I'm going to go ahead and select this plan. I'm sorry, these are the recommended add-ons. The underage minor protection for minors, extra $15. So $293 is what I'm looking at out the door on this system. So I'm going to hit continue, and just for fun, because I already have one of these, I think, lined up. At least I thought I did. Yeah, okay. So now what it's going to do is walk you through pretty much everything. All right. So it's going to ask you a bunch of questions that are fairly easy to answer. So gender, marital status, and you're just going to go through and do all this stuff. So I'll put in, let's put so we're just filling out information at this point, but as you can see, you can walk through and fill each of these things out. At the very end, and I'm just going to go to my profile really quick. Let me see if I can find where I did my last sample, because it's got all the fields populated. Oh, I know what I'm doing wrong here. I got to log out. Okay. It does not seem to want me to let me do my demo today for some reason. Okay, so let me walk through this really fast, and this is embarrassing with the technological difficulties here.
That's all right. We get it.
I do not know. Well, I'm just not used to showing this on Zoom either. I do not know why.
Do you have to pick a different, you had a bunch of logins. Do you have to, is it another one
Yeah,
of those logins?
that's what I'm concerned about, is I can't remember which
There's a
login.
demo one right there at the bottom. Is that the one
I know
you
that
want?
one doesn't work. I know that for sure that that one doesn't
Okay.
work. Hopefully this one's saved. So yeah, okay. So we can just continue this one really quick. And I'll just put in a bunch of fake people. So here we've got, I want, this is for, and then I'm just going to put the same contact information for everybody just to make this really quick. But this is how we design everything. So 2737157. Oops. I want to get to one part of the process so I can show you exactly how we work potential questions. So here's where we're going to design to see if you want any successor agents. If not, you can say no. Plan design, tangible personal property options. So this is what I wanted to show you. If people are having any issues with how do we define all of these choices proportionally to residuary beneficiaries, that's usually what I pick. But how do we know what to pick? There's question buttons that will define everything and kind of guide you through. So I wanted people to be aware of that. The reason I'm showing you all of this is because as I go through and show you how to design these things, you can now see that you can actually walk people through this on your own. And if you were to walk a client through all of this, you could basically have their will and a lot of their trust designed for them, kicked back to me. And now we all have an engagement with each other, because we'll hire you on for the notary piece of it and the signing piece of it. And then, obviously we win the business on the estate planning side, and the client gets what they need at a very fair cost. So we're able to also grow our reach. There are a lot of markets, there are a lot of demographics, there are a lot of people who just feel like I don't have anything or I can't afford this. That's not necessarily the case anymore. You can afford a lawyer in your somewhat area, and you can get the tools that you need for a very fair price. The reason being, we're taking a lot of my time out of this. Now, instead of me having to do everything in the process, all I really have to do is review everything, make sure that the legal aspects are there, and that what the client wants to happen will happen when they pass away or become incapacitated. So underage beneficiaries, we're going to say 18 is the age. If they predecease me, then I want everything to go to their kids. Trustees, I want their parent or a guardian, if they're underage, to be a trustee. My initial agent is going to be my dad. I don't want any successor agents. I do always recommend that people do put successors in there, but for purposes of time, I don't want to get into all that detail. Do you want to revoke your old power of attorney? Yes, always choose yes. Do you want your power of attorney agent to be able to amend trusts? No. Executors, I want my dad to be that. I do not want any successors. And guess what I've just done? I've just designed my will and my power of attorney right there. Now it's going to ask me some questions about my finances. Why is that? Because we want to understand what all is going into the trust, and we want to understand some stuff for elder law and Medicaid planning purposes too, should that be the case. So all of these questions get answered. So I'm just going to put nonsense answers in. My annual income, $5,000. I own a house. Value is 320. Do I have a mortgage? Yes, we'll say it's 180. Any other real estate? No. Do I own a business? I'm going to say no for right now. Do I have a retirement plan? Yes. Is there anything in it? Barely. See, I'm making this very realistic. Do you have any life insurance? Yes, I do. What's the insurance death benefit? We'll say it's 500,000. And then we'll hit next step. How much do I have in cash checking savings? We'll say 15. I don't have any annuities, no stocks, no bonds, no mutual funds. Personal property, cars and other stuff, we'll say 45,000. Liabilities outside of your mortgage. Let's say I've got a lot of credit debt and some student loan debt. So let's say it's 67,000. Okay, so now what this is saying is because you've completed information, you can get your will and power of attorney today. Your revocable trust has to go through your attorney's office, and then that would trigger me to call and reach out to the person. I don't have to go through the payments steps because of this demo aspect of it. But this is the summary of everything that I've just entered. These are the answers that get kicked to me. So now I can run all the analysis and everything that I want, because the person is going to confirm everything. So now what it's going to say is, this is recommended that you do the attorney review and supervised signing. This is where you all come in, right? Because they can do the free one, and that means they're just going to get their documents, and they can still use you as a notary, and you guys can do a wet signature or remote online, whatever you need to do. The 149 allows us to go into the meeting as a team, where I review everything with the client for it's a 30-minute call. So I review everything with the client. Notary's seen it the night before or the day before to prepare their end of it. We go in as a service group. Debbie's our witness. She can join in online. And this allows us to say, hey, our fee was 149 and you were part of our team on that. So we split the fees equally. Because it's, like I said, it's a service fee. It's not just a notary fee. So that's essentially what we're looking at doing. So if I hit select there, it's going to ask for my credit card information. And right here, as you can see, if I type in, and it's hit apply, it took it down by 15%. So this is where I would, down here, accept the engagement agreement with Chawla Legal Group, hit confirm, and that's when everything will become from private between you and the tool to open to me viewing, and we communicate through the tool back and email back and forth. Because I can go through, if things need to be capitalized, I can go through and adjust all that, but I have to kick it back to you for review. I do not have the sweeping authority to change everything and make that go to print. You have to, the client has to review everything before we release the documents, before the tool allows us to release the documents. So we've gone through, and the reason I mentioned Howard's firm to begin with, he's in Lansing. He did all of the ethics check for the state of Michigan for this tool. So all of the attorneys that are licensing the tool right now, we've all had our hands in developing the tool, especially for the state of Michigan specific documents and needs. So I think it's a great tool. I think it's a great way for lawyers and notaries to kind of come together and move through this weird time where people don't know whether they want to stay at home and do everything on their own, or if they're really old school and want to come meet you somewhere, whatever it is, it's a hybrid tool, so it works either way. You're not just stuck doing one or the other. And like I said, it helps us win over a lot of clients that we never otherwise would have had the opportunity to talk to. So I absolutely love it. I think it's a great thing. My plan is to talk to as many people as I can about this and get as many people on board. I've talked to some realtors. I've talked to some financial advisors. In fact, we had one financial advisor come back to us and say how cool it is that he can sit there and in 45 minutes, he can have a will and the majority of a trust design for his client that he's preaching this stuff to anyways. Well, now they've just taken care of it in his office. I've signed off on everything, and he's just looked like a huge value add to his client. So this is in no way, shape, or form anybody giving legal advice. It's just you guiding somebody through a tool, and then I'm the one ultimately on the hook for the legal advice. So
that was my question.
that's the other benefit to this over Rocket Lawyer or anything like that. You actually had, like, you're looking at the guy who is behind this tool right now.
Okay.
Like, I'm the customer service behind it. So if one of my clients has an issue with it, I don't care if they're only spending $79 with a simple power of attorney, one document. An issue is an issue, and I want to get it fixed. That's every document that comes out of this has my name on it. It says drafted by Chawla Legal Group.
Yeah, we only have like 5 minutes left, and there are a couple of questions in the chat. So
Yeah,
I wanted
let's
to
open
address
it up to
those real
that,
quick.
because that's essentially where I was ending anyway. So let's open it up to chat, and then I'll, as you're going through there, I'm going to put my contact information in the chat box, so everybody has that as well.
Okay. So the first question is, when will you pay the remaining balance, or can the rest be on a payment plan? So you put your deposit down when you're starting the process. When is the rest due?
Okay, so the deposit, it's not really a deposit. You're actually paying for those documents right then and there, and the service of us reviewing the documents and making sure that everything is what it is right then. So that's an actual payment. Everything else that needs to get done on the trust side gets discussed over the phone or over Zoom with me and the client. So we figure out, are there really needs for a trust, or was this just the artificial intelligence saying that, hey, so we do a full analysis to make sure that you indeed do need a trust. But that's all discussed on the side. And that process can be done in, we can break down payments in anything. We use Square and other forms of digital payment tools where we can set up installment agreements. We can take credit card numbers and set up automatic payments. We can take ACH and set up automatic payments, so nobody's got to worry about anything. Because one thing that I do make it a point of, because we do work up front for people, we do a lot of work right when we get paid. I don't chase money. So I'm more than happy to set up a payment plan with people, but we don't release documents until that payment plan is completely done.
Gotcha. All right, Barb.
In case anything happens, obviously, but we don't release anything until anything's done, because there are people out there that don't like to finish paying what they owe, and then I have to scramble to feed my kids. Debbie's got a story too. I mean, her mom, one of the reasons we went to work from home is she's a caregiver for her mom who has Alzheimer's. So we don't like scrambling and chasing people for money, so we don't do it. Our installment agreements, because we have been burned before, are very, very strict and regimented.
That makes sense. All right, Barb turned her camera on, so I'll let Barb ask her question.
And if we do need to go over a little bit, if people have time, I'm completely open for the next hour. I planned it out that way just in case people needed to have a little bit of a back and forth.
So my question is in regard to the notarization side of everything. So, and maybe this was answered after I jumped on. With all of these types of documents, is it a wet signature that's required? So an in-person notarization, or can that be done remote online notarization? So it can be done online digitally?
Yes. The state of Michigan allows for virtually all documents now to be notarized online, where
Okay.
you're going to see people saying, no, it's got to be a wet signature. You're going to see that more from national companies practicing in Michigan.
Okay.
And that's a company policy. And it's because not all states in the union have accepted online signatures or
Right.
electronic signatures. So because Michigan has, technically, all documents can be signed online. However, there are company policies that are valid policies that we have to skirt or play with. So yes, when a company says we require a wet signature, it's a waste of time for any of us to argue it. Just
Right.
always
No,
bite
I
my
just wanted
tongue.
to know if there was
I
that
do it, and
capability
then-
for Ron. Okay.
Yeah, but yes, all of our estate planning documents absolutely 100% have the capability. In fact, Leslie and I have done this before.
Yeah, I think I caught that. So, okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Thank you. That was my question.
Awesome. So there are no other questions in the chat right now. This
I'm
was
getting my information in there right now, so hang on 1 second.
really good. I was just
Yeah.
talking to one of my best friends yesterday about her need to get her parents to do an estate plan and how they think they're going to live forever and they're already in their 80s. So I guess a final question would be, how do you approach your parent and about this? How do you start the conversation, and what do you do when they push back? Like, it's hard, it's difficult conversations to have. First off, how do we as the children, like, is there a magic magic potion or a magic saying, or like, what are the right things to say that make it go better?
There's really, it's a case by case thing. There are certain cultures that are very tight-lipped about this stuff. There are certain cultures who are very open about it. There are certain people who they themselves feel uncomfortable to. So it's all on how we approach things. I know my dad was very open about talking about legacy and things like that. The difficult conversation was, hey, Dad, how do men die in your family? And he said, if the heart attack at 67 or before, thank you for joining, Barb.
Thanks, Barb.
If the heart attack hasn't killed us before 67, then it's usually cancer, Parkinson's, or dementia that gets us. So that being said, I know that the need for long-term care is potential for my dad. And he said, I never want to be in a nursing home. I don't want that, all this other stuff. And I know my dad, you have to hit him in a certain place for him to understand things. And you can't beat around the bush with him. You have to be very direct, because if you are beating around the bush, he'll call you out and he'll say, if you want something, just ask for it. So I had to go to him and say, look, you're a 5'10", 160-pound man. Your daughter, who's 5 foot and 100 pounds, is not going to be able to lift you out of bed if you need that help. I'm like, you're my hero and my mentor and my father. There's no way I'm going to be able to look you in the eye and wipe your butt for you if you need me to. I can't do it. I can barely talk about it without getting emotional. So those things are not on the table for us. We need help. We need the help. So either he's going to have to accept it and we can start looking now. But what really kicked it in for my dad after we had that conversation was seeing my mom in her rehab facility and how she enjoyed it and how it was a social thing for her and he wanted that. So I think a lot of it is just seeing things and dispelling myths, hearing things and dispelling myths, having difficult conversations, but in a way that's going to touch and impact the audience. Because again, like, I don't know how to, without knowing your parents, I don't know how to advise you on how to approach the subject. With my dad, it had to be very, very direct and in a way that hit him in terms of, yeah, look, we love you so much that we realize that we can't do this stuff for you. And we want the best for you. We want the best care for you. but that's not us. We want you to be able to pass your life savings on with how you intended it to go. But without going to see a lawyer or getting these documents in place, we can't make sure that that happens. If there's any issues within the family as it stands, if you and your siblings have minor issues, those issues usually tend to grow rather than stop when you throw a dead parent, emotions, and potential assets in between the two. It just blows up. Address it while people are living.
Yeah.
Call out the people in the room. Say, look, we don't get along that well. This is your way to, as a parent, prevent us from fighting afterwards. No parent wants to see their kids fight. And no parent wants to know that they're leaving a legacy of argument between their children. So how do we prevent at least that from happening is get a plan in place.
Smart. Thank you. So how do people get access to the guider? Was there a website or because
So
you gave
they
us the
can-
code, but
Yeah.
how did
There, let me put that in too. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So that way you can send out all the information. So
Okay. And was the thing that you wanted to surprise Leslie with, was that the code?
Her
with the
code,
name
yeah.
on it? Okay.
So everybody on the call today, if they go in and use the tool for themselves,
Mhm.
Leslie's going to get the credit for it
Okay.
because that was her code, because I gave you all her code to use.
Mhm.
But if people are interested, they can send me an email. We can talk about, I'll set up their own code so that way, and they'll have my email address. And if they just send me a message saying, hey, I've got a client, we might potentially be doing a guider transaction today. I'll give you my cell phone number and we can communicate back and forth over text. So I know exactly what's going on. Once I see that person's, because we don't see the payment information actually until the end of the month. Like I really don't know how much I'm making off guider. I mean, I can check cursory things, but till the end of the month, that's when I see all the discount codes and all the detail behind everything.
Mhm.
So I won't know unless you tell me that you've referred somebody, but that's
Okay.
why I say set up the codes. I can give you my contact information, say, hey, I just referred a client. They're going to be using my code. So now I know when it's time to set up the signing meeting, we do it through you and kick that client back to you as a notary referral. We don't,
Gotcha. Okay.
we can never steal or recycle clients. There's enough clients and people on earth who need this type of stuff for everybody to enjoy.
Yep.
So we don't steal, we don't poach, we don't do any of that stuff. Everything's fair. People are helping me, so I want to help them. And this is just a natural synergy with the tool that I'm proposing and the fact that you guys are wrong.
Awesome. All right. We're going to put that in the chat.
Yep, I'm putting it in right
Okay.
now. So it's,
And then Val wants to know, so the notary will split the 149 with you for the will estate plan.
and that's something we can work out between me and the notary. And what I want to
Yep.
do off the first few transactions is see how things are going with what the feedback is, because we might be able to bump that fee up a little bit. If people are being receptive to a 149 fee, then we might be able to up that a little bit. But yes, that's essentially what we would do. We would work out with the notary in advance, say, in all reality, how much of your time is this taking? What do we have to do? And like I said, this is a service fee. There are certain things about notary compliance that you all understand more than we do. There are certain things that we have to do in order to get you all to remote online notarize things. And to me, that's more than a $10 value. I get that you can't charge more for your signature, but you being a contracted employee for us, providing more than just a signature, but the ability to perform this service, I see that as more for my value add for my business. So as a business owner, it's not a client paying you $10 for your notary signature. It's me as a business owner hiring you to perform a service for me. And that's perfectly above board. So that's how we're treating our review fee for anybody that brings us the service and the clients. Because
Awesome.
again, it's basically through your service that is basically your service providing us with a client. So that's why I say we always bring things back to where they start.
All right, I think that's a good spot to end on. We've gone over the hour. We're almost 10
Yeah.
after. So
Yeah. Well, I
thank you.
appreciate that. Thank you. I plan on making these things 45 minutes, but I like what I put it that
Thank
way.
you so much for joining us today. This was really helpful, and it was very timely for me personally because of the conversation I had yesterday, plus something I know I need to do for my own self and my parents. So thank you so much. I still don't see Guider in the chat, how to get to
Oh,
it.
geez, I'm sorry. Oh, so.
As I want to make sure I save the chat, and then I can, when I post the video for everyone in the group, we can make sure that we get that info.
Now here's the thing, because it's kind of like a back end portal. It's not .com, it's guider.legal, and that's it.
Okay.
So that'll take you to the national portal. And then if you do the /Chawla legal, I don't know why it cut off like that, but that's our specific portal.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, thank you again, Dinesh, for joining us. I hope we can have you back in the future and talk some more about some different stuff.
I'm more than